Disney hires straight white man to go out and direct Star Wars. Internet reacts exactly how you would expect. So hey there. So today we are returning to that wonderful world of cringe brought to you by Disney. And this is what you get when you go and you try to speak to a certain demographic out there. That demographic being crazy. Absolutely crazy. Now this is cringe farming for me. I enjoy this too because no matter what we see in this, whether we sigh, we laugh, we cry, at the end of the day, we can feel better because, well, you're not around this kind of crazy. And if you are, well, you'll always have a shoulder to cry on here. Now, this is brought to you by Data Racer 117. If you haven't seen their content, they do a dang fine job. So check them out on Twitter if you're there. So you see this headline come up at first. You can see that exclusive Star Wars shocker. Marvel's Kevin F. developing a new movie for Disney. Again, when you look at the guy too, this is somebody that goes out and espouses specific rhetoric that should appeal to the people that are going to be speaking. Unfortunately, well, when you're talking about courage of conviction, this guy, if he truly believed in the stuff that he talks about, he wouldn't be able to fill his refrigerator. He wouldn't be able to keep the lights on because these folks, they don't want him around. What's interesting too is these folks have forgotten about Kathleen Kennedy. They've forgotten about what exactly we've gotten from movies, or they pretend that the last movies, they were great. They were honestly just the greatest. I mean, look at this from Sean here. Why is hiring a person of color / woman behind the camera such an abstract concept for Disney? It's obvious that Disney Star Wars has made huge improvements versus pre-Disney Star Wars. But when all the stories are being told from a single type of person's perspective, there isn't enough progress being made, period. So, when you look at that, look at all the statements that are chalked up in there. The newer movies are better from a progress standpoint, not from a storytelling standpoint, not from actually being good movies, period. But when you're talking about behind the camera, or you're talking about from script writers, hey, at least we're not getting a single type of person's perspective. AKA, we don't want white men writing our stuff. I mean, how absurd is that? It's also very limiting to actually judge people based on, well, what equipment they carry around and the color of their skin. I mean, imagine being that person hired solely for that. Yes, you get to go and you get to write a Star Wars movie, but knowing that you weren't the best person for the job, but rather you were hired because of this opinion. Wouldn't that say something? Wouldn't that say something indeed? Looking at more of this too. Let's just go through these. Lucasfilm, hire a filmmaker who isn't a white male challenge. You know, because again, well, when we look at all of the people that Lucasfilm hires, or we look at Disney, period. Oh no, they've never believed in that at all, have they? They have never believed that anyone in the hierarchy of their company should be doing that unless, of course, they're telling them to fetch coffee. I mean, what monsters, what monsters. Next one, Star Wars fans. We really want more diverse storytelling and a more diverse team behind these movies, especially in the writer's room. Lucasfilm, yeah, so I hear you, but what if we just keep hiring white men to tell these stories instead? Oh, you tell them there. You know what's funny is Star Wars fans aren't saying that. New people that have been coming in and saying, you know what I really like? I like Star Wars, but you know what would make it better for me? Well, if it's a mess, if it's an absolute disaster, but it still has specific demographics behind the scenes, I can get behind that. That's what you see with critics too. You want a really good example of that? Look at Knives Out. Look at how that movie was reviewed. I mean, you see people that are giving something accolades simply because of the politics in the message. They're not giving you anything because of the actual movie. They're telling you, well, this is going to show those people over there. Therefore, Interesting message, huh? But continuing on, I don't like it, to be honest. It feels like such a safe move from Lucasfilm. It just feels like more regressing. Kathleen promised us women of color, people of color behind the scenes, and all she's given us is more white males. So, it's more regressing out there. Because, again, doesn't matter what the content is. We don't care about that. What we care about is the hiring process. But let's just throw that out the window, not look at resume period. Let's just say, you only interview based on. Amazing stuff there. Pretty illegal, but hey, what do I know? Continuing, Lucasfilm be like the white man or the white man for today. Beautiful stuff there. Next one, Lucasfilm, I'm begging you to give a woman or a person of color a chance to work on this franchise. Again, because, none of those folks have ever worked on the franchise. None of those folks out there, they have ever had anything to do with it. I mean, people when they're talking about Kathleen, that's apparently a white dude out there that's been making some decisions. Continuing on, Lucasfilm keeps hiring white men to direct movies. Imagine how tired we are of it. Well, I can imagine that if that's the only thing that you see there, yeah, I'm sure you're tired of it. So again, go and clank that out on your keyboard. But, don't expect a good movie in return. Continuing, the real Star Wars shocker would be if they finally hired a female director. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one indeed. Next one. Does Star Wars know that female creators and directors exist? Oh man, does Star Wars know that? Well, I don't know. I didn't see that on the scroll. So maybe, just maybe, that was on the one that they removed, since we didn't get that. Maybe it actually said at the bottom, we do indeed know in a galaxy far, far away that female creators and directors exist. But I don't know. Maybe that's on the deleted scenes. Continuing on. To have him touch my franchise, to touch your franchise. Interesting. Doesn't that make this quote-unquote toxic behavior, by the way? That's what I always heard. If you're out there talking about this, you have strong opinions, well, this is toxic behavior. How dare you? Continuing with his basic hands, sending me, I am A.O. God, I hate this. We can get any basic white fanboy, but we cannot even get a female director or a person of color, or even better, a woman of color to direct Star Wars, huh? That's just not happening, probably ever. So, if you look at that hierarchy of message, imagine who gets left out there. Oh, you're a white female and you were hired on? Well, that's good, but that's not enough. We need to actually go past that. So, could you take a back seat too? Hey, there's a person of color here. We have a black man that has been hired, but you know what? That's still not enough. We still see that as problematic. Could you take a back seat too? Oh, look, a female that's black that's been hired. That is the best thing ever, until the next time when we need disabilities, when we need to bring in identity, again and again, you go down the rabbit hole. So next here, also, would it kill Lucasfilm to maybe hire a female or person of color writer, director, producer for a major Star Wars movie? Because I'm sure there's someone out there who's not a white man capable of making an incredible Star Wars trilogy. Next one, in all seriousness, I don't mind Kevin F. making Star Wars films, but it's just not ideal from my perspective when they could easily hire a person of color or female director. So, that's not ideal there. That's not a good thing. They even go on to say, I'm sure the movie will be great, but this was a big missed opportunity on LF's part. Disappointed, but not surprised. So, you can make great movies, but that doesn't matter. That's the key here. Your movie, what you finally produce and set in front of audiences, that doesn't matter in the slightest. What truly matters is the messaging, or the messaging in hiring, because, again, progress. Again, if we go right back to the beginning of this, we can see told from a single type of person's perspective. That's the true end game here. And finally, on this page, and there's plenty more of these, by the way, I just figured we'd hit those. I remember when it was really important to Disney to have female directors in line for Star Wars. And not only are they all white guys so far, you took away the one woman involvement. The one woman involvement. That sounds like a movie, does it not? Yeah, brought to you by. And there's plenty of these out here. I mean, you can continue going on and on and on with this, but the reality is, as a business, is this what you want to hear? Now again, part of this stuff is company fault. It is the fault of people like Kevin F, because these folks espouse this rhetoric. They've said it time and again. Marvel, it would be better if. Movies, they would be better if. But slowly, surely, they undermine not only their ability to have jobs, but they underline the very thing that you make movies for. Profit. They drive away folks. So they need to ask themselves something. Are you wanting to get accolades on social media? Do you want the fringe out there to tell you what to do? Do you want places like the Mary Sue saying, hey, in a boring movie, because they can't type out a headline here? Or do you want audiences to go in and say, yeah, that was a great movie? What are you after? So anyway, you tell me what you think about this stuff. I think it's kind of funny personally, and I couldn't see it happening to a better, more deserving company because, Disney, they've wanted to placate these folks. They've wanted to go out and insult long consumers, saying that the people that have been there, well, we need to replace them. And well, look at how that works out. But anyhow, you tell me what you think.